The Christmas I was called a loser, and what happened next? I stopped supporting my brother's family after he called me a loser and banned me from Christmas. Now he's completely losing it. Honestly, I was actually looking forward to Christmas this year. For once, I wasn't rushing to get everything done at the last minute. I'd bought gifts for my parents, my brother Jacob, his wife Kelly, and their kids before the first week of December. I even got extra presents, just in case. I don't know why, but I just had a good feeling about this year. So, you can imagine my shock when I stood on my parents' front porch, a bag of wrapped gifts in each hand. And my mom opened the door and said, "We don't want you here this year." At first, I thought it was some kind of strange joke. I even started to chuckle, but then Jacob's voice cut in from behind her. "This is no place for losers. You're really starting to wear on all of us." I just stood there, staring at her. My dad was in the background, looking everywhere but at me, visibly uncomfortable. Despite her uneasy look, my mom didn't budge. And Jacob? He was utterly arrogant. A rush of emotions hit me. Humiliation, rage, confusion. But somehow I managed to stay calm. "Fine, if that's how you feel," I said, nodding, and walked back to my car. Something inside me shifted as I sat in the driveway, looking at the gift bags on the passenger seat. No place for losers. Tired of me. Where did this even come from? I suspected Jacob was behind it, but I couldn't figure out why. Over the years, I'd been nothing but generous to him and his family. I'd paid for his kids' summer camp tuition, school supplies, and even his mortgage when he needed it most. And now, suddenly, I wasn't invited to Christmas? I decided not to leave just yet. I needed answers. I went back to the door, leaving the gifts in the car. My parents were still standing, there chatting in low voices, like they hadn't expected me back. Jacob was on the couch scrolling through his phone, pretending nothing happened. I didn't bother knocking. "What's going on?" I asked as I walked in. "Why am I not welcome at Christmas? What did I do?" Jacob, without looking up from his phone, smirked. "You really don't get it, do you? You've been slacking off lately. The kids have barely gotten anything from you this year." Stunned, I stared at him. "What are you talking about? I've spent hundreds on presents for your kids. They have more gifts in the car than anyone else. Last year you did more. This year it's like you don't care. It's embarrassing for us, honestly," Jacob said, finally turning to face me. I looked at my parents, expecting them to say something, maybe defend me or tell Jacob he was out of line. Instead, my mother just offered an awkward smile and remarked, "But you just bought a new car. You found money for that." I wasn't even sure how to react for a second. "The car's on credit," I stated, keeping my voice steady. "And even if it wasn't, how does buying a car suddenly make me responsible for Jacob's kids? They're not my responsibility." Jacob leaned back on the couch and declared, as if that explained everything, "You're the one who makes the most money. We're family. Families help each other. You've always done that." I glanced at his wife, Kelly, who was sitting quietly in the corner. Her face was flushed, and she was looking down at her hands, saying nothing. It was like she wanted to disappear. "Is that your reasoning?" I questioned. "Because I've been generous in the past, I'm now obligated to do so forever? And if I don't, I'm a loser?" Jacob just shrugged. If the shoe fits, that was it for me. I shook my head and took a step back. Turning to my parents, I said, "You know what? You're right. I don't belong here." Then looking at Jacob, I added, "Enjoy your Christmas, and good luck with those presents because this loser is done financing your life." Without waiting for a response, I left. I gripped the wheel tighter than I needed to and drove home in silence. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Was I the villain here? For years, I had gone above and beyond for my family, always helping Jacob when he needed it and making sure his children never suffered because of his financial struggles. And now, I was a loser for not doing enough? Plus, I was unwelcome at Christmas. After I got home, I sat in the driveway for a while, staring at nothing. When I saw the bag of gifts still in the car, I felt sick to my stomach. I'd spent weeks picking out the perfect items, thinking about what my parents would appreciate and what the kids would enjoy. And for what? I wasn't supposed to be there. As I thought about it more, it became clearer. This went beyond Christmas and gifts. I had been too blind, or perhaps too willing, to notice that this had been developing for years. The truth was, Jacob had always relied on me. He and Kelly had a tough financial start to their marriage. He struggled to keep a consistent job, and Kelly's part-time work barely covered their basic needs. I volunteered to help once when they were facing eviction, assuming it would only be for a short time. A few hundred here, a few hundred there. Later, when their second child was born, I helped with childcare. A little while became years. Jacob always called me first when he was having a bad day. To be honest, I always said yes, not because I had to, but because I cared for his kids. I didn't want to see my brother and his family suffer, and I didn't want them to go without. In retrospect, I saw that I had created this dynamic. Jacob relied on me too easily. Somewhere along the line, it became entitlement and ceased to be thankfulness. Being excluded from my own family's Christmas celebration tonight because I didn't do enough was the final straw. When I woke up the next morning, with more clarity, I decided I was done. No more helping Jacob. No more constant handouts to compensate for his irresponsibility. He could decide for himself if he wanted his children to have the items I had given them. Making that choice wasn't simple. Not only would I cut off financial support to my brother, but I would also risk my relationship with him, his kids, and possibly even my parents. However, I couldn't continue to be treated more like an ATM than a brother and son. They didn't contact me, and I didn't contact anyone. Perhaps they got the message, I thought. However, I should have known Jacob wouldn't take it so lightly. New Year's Eve passed in complete silence. No texts, no phone calls, nothing. My parents, Jacob, and even Kelly didn't reach out. For the first time in years, I was all alone over the holidays. Although I didn't anticipate them contacting me, it was an odd sensation when midnight passed, and my phone was still silent. I'll admit I considered calling, but every time I did, I thought of Jacob's sneer and his statement, "No place for losers." I had been the one keeping things together for years, and they had the nerve to treat me as though I were disposable. If that's what they wanted, I'd give them distance. By the middle of January, I started to notice a change. Kelly has always been a reserved person who shied away from confrontation. However, she unexpectedly texted me one evening. It was succinct and direct. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't agree with what happened. Jacob won't hear it from me, but I thought you should know." Unsure of how to react, I sat for a while looking at my phone. On the one hand, the fact that someone in the family recognized things for what they were was comforting. However, Kelly's apology suddenly seemed like too little, too late, because she hadn't spoken up that evening. At last, I responded, "I appreciate it, Kelly, but this isn't something I can just move on from." I didn't mind that she didn't continue the topic. Then came the surprise visit. In early February, Jacob unexpectedly showed up at my house. I was in the middle of a work meeting when I heard the knock. I initially ignored it, as I wasn't expecting anyone. However, the knocking continued. When I eventually opened the door, Jacob was there, looking more unkempt and irritated than I had ever seen him. Before I could stop him, he remarked, "We need to talk," and walked inside. I folded my arms. "What's this about?" He was direct and concise. "You need to stop acting like this and start helping out again." I laughed, not because I thought it was amusing, but because I couldn't believe he meant it. "Helping out? You mean pay for your life? I told you, I'm done with that." He gave me a scowl. "You're the one with the money. Do you know how hard it's been for us since you decided to act like this?" The kids barely have what they need. Kelly's trying to keep it together, but we can't do it without your help. What I was hearing was unbelievable. Are you listening to yourself right now? You're a grown man, Jacob. You have a wife and children. If you need more money, go out and earn it. It's not my job to solve your problems. He retorted. You've always helped before. Why are you being so selfish now? Selfish? I said again. You want to talk about being selfish? Let's talk about how you lied to our parents about me, turned them against me, and then banned me from Christmas because I didn't spend enough on your kids. And now you're here asking for more? You've got some nerve, Jacob, I interrupted him, by raising a hand before he could say anything further. We're done here. I'm not giving you another dime, and I don't want to hear from you again until you figure out how to act like an adult. He glared at me as he stood there for a while before hurriedly leaving. I assumed that would be the last of it for a while. Once Jacob stormed out, he would grumble to my parents, but he would soon realize that I wouldn't give up. I was mistaken. 2 days later, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I wouldn't have answered normally, but I felt compelled to. Hello? A man's voice said. Yeah, who's this? This is Mark Dawson. I'm a lawyer. I represent a client who has recently expressed concern about certain financial matters involving your family. Do you have a moment to discuss them? I went cold. An attorney? What financial issues? In an unduly courteous tone, he stated, I can't go into detail over the phone, but it involves financial contributions you've made to your brother, Jacob, and his family. Specifically, your use of those contributions. Would you be willing to come to my office for a discussion? I was at a loss for words. There were a lot of options in my head, but none of them were good. Had Jacob borrowed money under my name? Was he up to no good with my information? Or was this a last-ditch effort to scare me into handing him money once more? Who's your client? I inquired at last. There was a moment's silence. I'm afraid I can't disclose that right now, but I assure you this is not a lawsuit against you. It's more of an investigation. Against my better judgment, I consented to a meeting. My curiosity overcame me, and I couldn't get rid of the impression that this was more than just Jacob being himself. The following day, I had no idea what to anticipate as I entered Mark Dawson's office, but he dropped a bombshell as soon as I sat down. He pushed a packet across the desk toward me and stated, Kelly is the client I'm representing. I was so surprised that I blinked. Kelly? Why would she need a lawyer? Mark studied me intently while folding his hands. She thinks Jacob's been using the money you've given him over the years inappropriately. She has reason to believe he's been hiding money from her and from you. I felt sick to my stomach. Hiding money? What do you mean? When he opened the folder, copies of bank statements, receipts, and what appeared to be screenshots of text messages were visible. She suspects that Jacob has been taking your financial contributions and funneling them into a separate account based on what she found. He may have been using the money for gambling and other personal expenses instead of supporting his family. I gazed incredulously at the paperwork. You're saying all those times I helped him with bills, with his kids' school stuff, that money never went to them? Mark gave a serious nod. It seems that way. Kelly discovered this recently and came to me because she didn't know what to do. She didn't want to involve you at first, but given the circumstances, she thought you should know. What I was hearing was unbelievable. All along, Jacob had been deceiving me, spending money I believed would benefit his family on unspecified expenses. For not recognizing it sooner, I wasn't sure if I should feel deceived, angry, or just foolish. My voice was strained as I questioned, Does Kelly have proof? Take a look for yourself. Mark nodded and moved the folder closer to me. The proof. I looked over the papers. There were withdrawals from Jacob's account, significant amounts moving to a different account in his name, and transfers from my account to his, which corresponded with the times I had assisted him with emergencies. I observed transactions from that account, including visits to pricey dining establishments, internet gambling sites, and even a few hotel stays. Unbelievable. I shook my head and mumbled. And Kelly knew about this? she only recently discovered. The second account, Mark clarified. She had suspicions for a while, but she didn't have access to his banking information until she stumbled across some bank statements he'd left out. She didn't have proof. That's when she contacted me. I tried to absorb everything as I sat back. Does she want me to do anything? Press charges or something? Mark gave a headshake. Not at this point. She's more focused on protecting herself and the children, but she thought you should know in case Jacob tries to manipulate you further. Laughed resentfully. Well, he already tried. He showed up at my house a few days ago demanding that I start helping again. Mark looked at me irritably. That goes along with what Kelly told me. It seems Jacob is feeling the pressure now that your financial support has stopped. He may be in even deeper trouble than Kelly knows. As I gazed at the folder, my thoughts were racing. A part of me wanted to go to Jacob's house and confront him, but I also knew that would only make him feel good because he had irritated me. What's Kelly up to instead? I said. Mark paused before responding. She's considering her options. She wants to make sure she and the kids are safe, financially and otherwise. If Jacob's behavior escalates, she may file for separation or take other legal action. I was more affected by hearing this than I had anticipated. Kelly had always given off the impression of being a gentle, devoted person who would always be there for Jacob. I could tell how horrible things had gone if even she was eager to leave. With a mix of feelings, angry at Jacob, sad for Kelly and the children, and guilty for not seeing sooner how far this had gone, I thanked Mark for his time and walked out of the office. Above all, though, I experienced an odd sense of relaxation. This was the first time in years that I wasn't bearing Jacob's burden. And now that I was aware of the reality, I would never again allow him to control me. After leaving the lawyer's office, I couldn't stop thinking about all I had just discovered, the gambling, the hidden money, and Kelly quietly plotting her next move. I was in the center of my family's drama, which was similar to a soap opera. I stayed away for the next few days. I didn't call my parents, and I didn't get in touch with Jacob either. However, it seems that he didn't like the quiet because one evening, as I was ready to have supper, his name appeared on my phone. I thought about leaving it on voicemail, but I felt compelled to answer it. "What do you want, Jacob?" He wasted no time at all. "We need to talk," he said in a strained, almost desperate voice. "You said something to Kelly, didn't you?" I arched an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" "Don't act foolish," he yelled. "She's been acting weird since Christmas, and now she's bringing up lawyers and separation. I know you've been putting ideas in her head." I couldn't contain my laughter. "You think I'm the problem? You're the one who lied to her, hid money, and gambled it away. If she's tired of your crap, that's on you, not me." After a pause, Jacob eventually spoke the words, "You don't know what you're talking about." I responded, "Oh, I think I do," as my rage boiled up. "Kelly told me everything. The secret account, the gambling, the money you've been wasting while I've been breaking my back trying to help you. You're a joke, Jacob." I interrupted him before he could finish his shout, saying, "Here's the thing. You've used me for the last time. I'm done helping you. I'm done covering for you. If Kelly leaves you, that's on you. And if you try to drag me into this mess again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you've been up to." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good to finally say what I'd been holding in for years. The backlash was quick. Kelly called me the following day. "Has Jacob given you a call?" she asked with caution. "Yes," I replied. He wasn't content. "Has something taken place?" "I confronted him about the gambling and the hidden account," she said after hesitating. "He acknowledged some of it, but he is still making an effort to downplay it." "Are you all right?" I inquired. Despite not hearing it, she answered, "I'm fine," but she was sick of defending him. The children deserve better. I knew things were terrible between them, but hearing her say that felt like the beginning of the end, and it impacted me harder than I thought it would. "Whatever you decide to do, you have my support," I replied. Thank you, she said softly, and I apologize for everything. The way we treated you over Christmas wasn't fair. I ought to have spoken up sooner. We spoke for a while, and when we hung up, I felt a weird sense of closure. Although Jacob had ruined our relationship, Kelly and the children weren't my enemies, and I wouldn't be angry with her if she had the courage to confront him. Nevertheless, I couldn't get rid of the feeling that Jacob wasn't finished causing trouble. A few weeks later, Kelly sent me a brief text message consisting of only 3 words. "We're going today." She told me she was moving to another state with the kids while Jacob was out of town on a business trip, which I figured was just another excuse for gambling, and that she had packed up their belongings, rented a moving van, and left without telling him, at least not until she had everything sorted out legally. I called her right away. "I just couldn't stay any longer," she stated gently. "I can't keep pretending this is normal." "What about everything? Even the rent?" Sincerely interested in how she was doing, I inquired. "I was hoping you could help me with that," she said after a pause. "Just for a little while, as much as I hate to ask." "Say no more," I said. "I'll take care of it." So yes, I did end up helping her and the kids, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally doing the right thing and not being used. When Jacob returned home to find the house deserted, he naturally went completely mad and called me to vent about how I had ruined his life and turned Kelly against him. After letting him vent for a while, I said, "Perhaps this wouldn't have occurred if you had spent more time as a husband and father and less time gambling." I hung up after saying, "But hey, good luck with that." The children are adjusting to their new school. Kelly has secured a stable career, and she is at last beginning to feel in charge of her life again. I've heard that Jacob continues to blame everyone but himself, but in all honesty, it's no longer my problem. So, if you can call it that, you have your happy ending. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.